Hi and welcome. This is Dreams of the Fallen by A S Colworth, a brand new self-pub fantasy novel coming out right now, end of May 2025. This book gave me really strong vibes of this is a Magic the Gathering inspired story. I do not know if the author plays Magic or not, but having played and having read some of the fiction that comes along with the new sets that come out, that's kind of what I felt like I was reading, especially with some of the inclusion of the non-human races, but not just the generic dwarf, elf, dragon. It had at least a couple of its own unique races, which was nice. I do love a good elf, dwarf, dragon story, but it's also nice to see some originality and creativity. This book also felt rather refreshing to me to read because I had just come off of DNFing a Jim Butcher book. I tried The Furies of Calderon, the first in the Codex Alera, which supposedly is supposed to have a Roman legion inspiration, and in the Codex Alera, at least the first half of the first one that I read, that inspiration was very, very light. And so after putting that one down, I picked up Dreams of the Fallen, which also had Roman legion inspiration, a lot more prominent, and without the sexism. That right there made me happy to be reading this self-pub novel over an already established author. So the story of Dreams of the Fallen takes place on Luminous, a place where the Empire had grown in strength to the point that they had been able to create life. And like most fantasy and science fiction stories, where a society has been able to create life, things did not go as planned. They could not control the life they created, and things splintered. Society fell apart. The people who created the life and the life that had been created went separate ways. There's a few different character point of views. The first one is Dela. She has kind of a mysterious past. She does not remember where she came from. The last 10 years she has spent with her mentor and teacher, Gretchen, who has not only been teaching her, but also protecting her and having her keep this mark on her chest that no one else seems to have hidden. It would be dangerous if anyone knows she has it. But at the very beginning of the story, guess what happens? Her secret mark is discovered and there are soldiers coming after her and she must flee. So she runs out into the desert to hopefully find answers about her mark, her mysterious power, her past, anything she can figure out. Except most people, not most people, supposedly, anyone who tries to cross the desert never comes back. So her chances of survival do not feel too great. And then we also get to follow Gretchen, who had been protecting Dela and who stayed behind when she left. And he has been captured, and he had been hoping to lead some kind of rebellion, some kind of revolution. He would even have been okay with being killed as a martyr to set things off, but instead he has to live and try to deal with things as they come at him, including the leaders that he has lost all his faith in, the ones he had been rebelling against. So these two characters, Dela and Gretchen, are both trying to find answers that have to do with Dela's past and what the elders have been trying to hide all this time, which does include the past of their entire people. So many things from the past are shrouded in mystery. And generally, if you're governing bodies want to hide the past from you, that should be suspicious. And then the other main character, that other point of view that we get, is Cassius. And where he is from is where the strong Roman legion vibes are coming from. The entire society that he's in feels very strongly Roman inspired. The names, how their society and their culture is built, how the government works. But this group of people, the Roman-inspired ones, they are hidden deep in the desert. Their home is inside this network of caves that's difficult to find unless you already know where it is. And it's split into two societies, the ones who are able to live in the light, and then the ones who live deeper in the caves, who live in the dark. And it feels very upper city, lower city, and upper class, lower class. The dark dwellers are the poor, lower-class citizens, and that is where Cassius has come from. That's where he was born. That's where the prince found him. Cassius I don't remember exactly, either just befriended him or saved him or something. And so Cassius has risen up through the ranks to the point where he is now dominus of his people. So while the king is away and has gone missing, Cassius is just trying to hold things together, but nobody respects him because he came from the dark. So he is dealing with a bunch of power-hungry people while there's this other threat out there, this possible magical threat having to do with some kind of old ancient power or old enemy. And it's one of those situations where there is this threat to everyone, but everyone is so concerned with fighting each other, they ignore the real threat, and it's really frustrating as the reader watching, like, come on, just work together here. It has one of those stories where from both groups of people, Dela and Gretchen's people and Cassius's people, you get a character from each one of those. They get thrown together, and it's like that feeling of unofficial representative from each side who start to befriend each other and would love for their peoples to make peace, but neither one of them necessarily has the influence to make that happen. And the story involves a lot of like cultural, societal issues, like what do certain groups of people deserve? Does everyone really deserve freedom? And what does that freedom involve? Freedom from this thing, which leads you right into the control of this other thing. The relationships between characters I thought were pretty well done. For me, the characters did not draw me in as much as I would have liked. There were a couple of relationships between one of the main characters and his daughter, and I thought the tension between them was pretty good. And then the two characters from opposite worlds who come together, I thought that was pretty well done. And then the other main character, Cassius, well, he's having to deal with everything going on around him. None of those relationships were bad. I just felt like they didn't quite go deep enough for what I would have wanted. So I would say rather than being a character-driven story, this one felt a lot more plot-driven, which totally fine. I thought one of Colworth's big strengths in this book was his use of descriptive language. Every time a scene was being set and we were going into a new place, I felt like I could see everything going on. The way he described the atmosphere, the colors, the amount of wind there was to ripple capes or whatever. I felt like it had good, vivid visuals. Weakness, main one, probably the dialogue. I know that can be a tough one for a lot of authors, so won't come down too hard on him for that one. So while I did get an arc of this book, I did not read it fast enough, so by the time this video comes out, the book will already be out. I will put a link for it in the video description. As far as I know, it's only on Kindle right now. If you're the kind of person who normally likes to wait for a physical copy of a book, I would encourage you that if this book sounds at all interesting to go ahead and just buy the Kindle version. Sometimes sales right after release determine whether an author can put out a physical version or not. So go ahead and go support the author. I will also link my Instagram and my Patreon. Thank you, patrons. I appreciate you guys a lot. And happy reading. Bye.